welcome everyone. Glad you could all join us. It's been a week since I was talking to Jesse. First of all, I just want to sort of cover off what's happened in that week. We had the latest update from the ATM on Monday, which I think was 2.6 million quid. And then later this week, that was then converted into Bitcoin, as we would expect. So all in all, quite a quiet week on the news front. Zinks, anything you want to say about those two? I mean, sorry, before I should have asked the question second. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, 30 Bitcoin, based off some of our previous purchases, but at the same time, it was only 4 months ago that we were cheering on, a 2 Bitcoin purchase.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, the main thing, especially during a month like this, is that you just keep things ticking over, in a period where clearly across, not just in the UK, but across, the world, that Bitcoin treasuries have been experiencing MNAV compression. Sentiment has gone to the toilet. So as long as we can keep buying Bitcoin and that we're not stagnant, that's all that matters to me at the moment. 30 Bitcoin, I think that's more than everyone else in the UK that's put together in the last couple of weeks. So, um, yeah, in the next time round, it's going to be a lot higher than that because we've had a couple high volume days. Um, so yeah, as long as we keep moving, I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing to sort of talk about, I suppose, based off recent trends and recent sentiment, is share price. Um, last Friday, when I was talking to Jesse, I think we closed at £1.28, and today we're trading, ever so slightly above that, which makes it sound like it's been a quiet week. Um, what's your take on the price action this week?
Well, we had the run up to £1.72. Um, there was a huge influx of buying activity, and then I think yesterday there was quite a big seller who sold like over £1 million worth of shares. So yeah, it's good to just see the volume return. More importantly, I think the trading volume returning is the most important thing here.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I think it's our third or fourth. Yesterday was our uh, fourth high volume trading day, compared to recent volumes. So that's encouraging. And what do you think about I don't know how into technical analysis you are, but the kind of breakout from the downward trend line to then retest it and then we see where we go? Or do you think it's more just finding our consolidation level?
Yeah, so I don't really do the technical analysis stuff just because I think especially at this, for small cap like SWC, I don't think a lot of the traditional TA stuff is applicable because it can all just be shifted by one big buyer and one big seller. Um, but I do think we've definitely bottomed. I don't think we're going to close below the £1 3 pence that we did before. I think we had that capitulation wick on the 2nd of September, and I do think that's the bottom. I'd be very, very surprised if we go lower than that. Um, so yeah, I just think it's just it's not just Smarter Web, Capital B, Meta Planet, MSCR. It's the same thing. I think the bottom's in for all these companies, and it's just a period of consolidation before we make the next move up. We've seen Bitcoin, starting to make its move now. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come.
Sure. Yeah, looking at the wider market, um, the big sell-offs seem to have slowed or stopped for pretty much everyone. Um, of the sort of main contenders at least. Um, I guess that kind of segues nicely into maybe a bit more of a macro view, Bitcoin, that kind of stuff. Where's your head at with regards to that?
We're going higher. Um, Absolutely. I think we're gonna get. I think Morgan Stanley just come out and said that they're expecting 3 rate cuts this year. Um, Inflation in the US came in a bit lower than predicted. So I think, yeah, we're gonna get cuts, and you know, that's gonna set fire to the matchstick. And I'm expecting Bitcoin to have an explosive Q4, at least the run up to 140 to 150K, in my opinion. Um, Over the next couple of weeks, we've got, you know, some big Bitcoin buys coming from, Strive. They got permission to do their merger. Meta Planet have $1.4 billion coming over the next week. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of capital coming into Bitcoin over the next couple of months. So I'm very bullish.
And where are you at with regards, Jesse and Joe Burnett did that podcast um, this week, the Mustard Seed podcast by Joe, on kind of 4-year cycle versus that's over, grind up um, kind of thing.
I'm on that. It's over, but like it's people have been saying this cycle after cycle, but I do think the macro environment is completely different this time round. It's the first time that we've got Bitcoin ETFs. We've just seen the Bitcoin treasuries accumulate over 1 million Bitcoin, and they don't plan to sell. There's a lot less leverage in the market. There's no FTX, etc. So outside of a black swan, you know, I can't really see why we should have such a drawdown this time round. And I think the halving is less impactful every 4 years. So before we had that, uh, after each halving, we had that, you know, a high level of tightening of the supply. But now we're at 450 Bitcoin per day. That's being mined, but that's being eaten up, by the ETF alone, and then you've got the Bitcoin treasuries. So it does feel different. The type of capital that is buying Bitcoin, retail is almost irrelevant. So, it's the first cycle where, yeah, retail are, pushed to the side. And these institutional investors, they're less price sensitive. So I'd be happy with a slow grind up, to be honest. I'm hopeful that that's, the case, and that we don't have another prolonged, drawdown. And also, I think it's important as well that this is the first time going into a bull market where interest rates are so high. Since Bitcoin's inception, we've pretty much had, 0 to less than 1% interest rates. Now, it's the first time that, interest rates were, got to 5% or so. Um, and over the next couple of years, I expect it to go down. And I'm expecting quantitative easing to resume as well. So it's hard to see, in the backdrop of the ETFs, the nation states, institutional investors, Bitcoin treasuries, you know, where's the selling going to come from, and where's the prolonged bear market going to come from? I don't know. So yeah, I'm expecting it to be prolonged.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on the fence. I still lean towards the 4-year cycle until proven otherwise.
True.
Um,
Yeah, that makes sense.
the thing that comes to my mind is things like global liquidity cycles,
Mm.
presidential cycles, which kind of tie into that, and the what am I trying to say? Just simple human irrationality, right? Um, if Bitcoin gets to a point where it seems like it's overheated, people are going to FOMO in,
Mm.
which overheat it more, and then just by the nature of markets, it'll correct.
Yeah, it could easily happen like that. Maybe we have the exact same repeat. But 1 second. One sec.
I guess Sync's got an important call. Um, okay. What am I going to talk about? So the rest of the session, after we finish on the macro, we're going to start talking about the potential mergers and acquisitions that SWC might be eyeing up. You guys saw um, this morning, I expect, the Financial Times article that featured SWC. And I won't go into the article because it's, well, standard mainstream media.
Sorry
Um,
about that.
that's okay. I've just been filling time telling people what we're going to talk about.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Where was we?
uh,
Sorry, sorry.
well, I think we're just finishing up on 4 year cycles, and you know, there's a
Yes.
possibility it can go either way.
Yeah, human psychology, people, I think the power law, the Bitcoin power law followers are, expecting Bitcoin to top at 200K and then, drop back down to just under 100K. So there will definitely be people trading it and expecting it. So perhaps towards the end of the year, we're going to get, much greater level of volatility. But, personally, I don't plan to sell anything. None of these Bitcoin treasury companies plan to sell. So, I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I think just to sort of confirm that, if we only hit, say, I don't know, 130, 140, maybe $150,000 on Bitcoin, that's not a blow off top to me.
No,
Um,
me neither. So,
and so I don't think that would be enough to say, okay, we're going to correct 50, 60, 70%. Um, but it's Bitcoin.
yeah, anything can happen, really.
So yeah, I was just saying to people while you were taking that call. FT article this morning. Um, Andrew's mentioned in it, obviously, because it's covering SWC, but as quoted as saying that he's got a potential merger or acquisition in his sights, and he was talking specifically about treasuries. Um, I then did a post after that this morning, sort of
Mm,
looking at two options in the UK, because my mind first went to UK because
mm,
a whole bunch sprung up. Um, Saturated market. It'd be good to kind of clear out the dead wood. Um, and without diving into all the tiny, we've got half a Bitcoin treasuries, it seems like let's have a look at coin and sats, right? So coin, I just think is a non-starter. It's not trading below one mNAV.
agreed.
Um, so write that off. And then sats kind of piqued my interest, particularly with the RNS that came out this morning saying that their auditor had quit. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't want this to turn into a like shitting on sats session, but you know that sent a signal to me that potentially, and it's a big if, their prospectus might be in trouble, or as a business they might be in trouble, which means their 163 million pound raise that they did, with all that money, and the Bitcoin that was paid in kind, would have to go back to the original investors.
Mm.
What if SWC was able to do an acquisition of them to save the deal, and they could do it at a discount, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
To be honest, I think it's quite unlikely just because of how complicated the structure is, with the CLNs that they have. It's all, there's so many fingers in the pie and there's so many people involved that I just don't see it working with, because there's a lot of people owed a lot of things. Um, so yeah, I think it would be quite messy personally. So I see it as quite unlikely. As you mentioned, there was the RNS of the resignation of the auditor. I think yeah, the reasons that they gave was that the working relationship had broke down. So who knows what that means and what, but I don't think that with just the amount of people involved, I think if SWC was going to look at uh, an acquisition, it would be a prospect that's more attractive.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was kind of in my head. It was, oh, there's 163 million
Mm.
up for grabs here, and an LSE uplisting opportunity. Although, you know, M&As take a long time, so maybe that would actually
Well,
slow down the uplisting
you have
process.
you have to remember that 163 million was pledged at a 1 MNAV or just above, so it wouldn't be accretive anyways to
Okay.
SWC. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it'd only be if it was at a discount.
Mm.
But yeah, I take your point. So I don't want to answer for you, but in my mind, that kind of counts out it being a UK treasury.
Hmm. On the Bitcoin Treasury's net website,
Yeah.
you can filter through by MNAV, and you can just look at all the companies, and there is quite a few that are trading. I don't know if all the data is complete, but there is quite a few that are definitely trading below a 1 MNAV. And, you know, I made a post on this, but essentially for SWC, if they can, trade their equity to acquire a company that is trading below 1 MNAV, it would be accretive for shareholders. And, you know, the further the gap is between, so the higher the premium that SWC is trading at, and the greater the discount, you know, the target acquisition is, the more accretive it will be.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, let's get into how might SWC fund an acquisition. Let's start with what you've suggested there, which is share issuance effectively. We'll give you SWC shares for your
Yeah,
company.
absolutely. And it makes sense for both parties because, firstly, for SWC, it's essentially the best analogy that I can think of is pretend that £1 equals $1 and SWC has a pound, but for some reason they have this market where they can trade it for £1.80, and this dollar that they're getting is worth, 0.880, 80 cents to the dollar. So it's trading their expensive currency for a cheaper currency, but the real value of both these things are pegged at 1 to 1. So I think that's how they would do it because it's the most accretive for SWC. We don't have a lot of cash on hand. I don't really see any other options to fund it unless we raised capital, then bought the company. But that would be less accretive than just doing it the way that I said.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, basically giving someone something that's at a 1.8 mNAV for something that's at a zero point 0.8 mNAV, like you're getting far superior accretion than just buying it with cash, right? Um,
Yeah, and also if you think about the benefits for the other side, they get to trade. If you're trading at a zero point 0.8 mNAV, for example, my assumption is that A, the stock is not really that liquid, but B, there's something going wrong there. So you get to trade into and in return get SWC shares, which is a far will have far more liquidity. Maybe the bigger players will be able to have an exit at that point. So there is pros for the other side too. Um,
but sorry, I'm just thinking about this. If you found, I don't know, a big investor like this previously mentioned big American bank, and they give you, I don't know, £100 million, and in return they get shares, you're already getting that zero point 0.8 mNAV anyway, aren't you? Um, you, you know, the 1.8 multiple by issuing the shares. Then you've got the 100 million quid to go buy the company. I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head.
but that's 100. Okay, you can do that, but instead of spending that 100 million quid, you can give them your own equity at 1.8 times NAV. Whereas that 100 million quid can buy Bitcoin, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So, but instead, you're giving them. It's the MNAV premium that is makes the deal far more. It's better. It's more accretive for NAV per share.
yeah. So I guess what you're saying is, if we've got 100 million on the table to be given to us, we could do both.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that to then acquire another company. I would rather acquire the company with my MNAV premium because then that's
Yeah,
more accretive, and then I'll just use that 100 million to just get more Bitcoin.
yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm with you, and I think I agree. Okay, so let's. I sent you a list of companies according to BitcoinTreasuries.net that
Hmm.
are trading below a 1 MNAV. Now, um, some of these companies don't have complete data, so again, I don't know how accurate the data is. But let's just assume we're working with OK data. Let me share the screen a sec.
You know, there's a Canadian company called Bitcoin Treasury Corp, which
Yeah.
they I've got they're trading at like a they're run by Canadian bankers. They bought Bitcoin, raised capital for Bitcoin, but they never we've not heard of them since. But they're trading at a fully diluted MNAV of 0.78x. That's a perfect example of something that I'd look at and be like, okay, that looks quite tasty. And they have
Okay.
770 Bitcoin. Um,
Was that in the list I sent you, or is that a different one?
oh, that's just one I just
Okay.
record off the top of my head because I know that this was a company that was trading below MNAV that I've looked at. Doesn't seem to be much activity, but it could be. This is just a perfect example.
Yeah.
You know, if SWC was to give equity, acquire this company, it would be highly accretive to shareholders. So the bigger the delta between, the bigger the discount, obviously the better it is.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna share the screen. Okay. Cool.
Hmm.
So some of these will whiz through, I'm sure, because one, there's a lot of them, and two, they're going to be quite an easy no. Um, Now this one, Next Technology, on the face of it, looks quite interesting because it's got a zero point 0.3 MNAV.
Mm-hmm.
But one, it's pretty massive. Um, well, is it massive? If its market cap is $201 million, that there's potential that could be pulled off, right? But it's also in China.
Yeah. So when this says that the MNAV is zero point 0.3, um, I find that quite unlikely unless obviously I don't know anything to do with their operating
Mm.
business and what's going on. But imagine that I can imagine an M&A with a Chinese company is quite complicated. That's the thing as well. Like when Andrew and is looking at these deals, it has to make sense after
Mm.
the
It's
admin,
not,
the lawyers, the
uh,
bankers.
and it's not just about the Bitcoin. What's the business that they're buying as well? Like, is that something that we want to be dealing with?
Yeah, how much debt,
Um,
for example.
yeah, exactly. So I think we'll just write that one off straight away. Next we got Kango. Again, it's a China based one, 0.783 diluted MNAV.
That's too big for us.
Too big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next, Semler, too big, but
Mm, that would be
um,
very interesting. And you get a
well,
Nasdaq listing with that
I mean, yeah.
potentially.
Well, exactly. Let's just talk a little bit about the too big because I don't know enough about M&As to comment on this, but I've definitely seen companies in the past where like £100 million company buys a £1 billion company, and
Mm.
I never looked into it, but I remember at the time thinking like, how does that actually happen? So, I guess what I'm saying is it's possible, but unlikely.
It's hard with like going.
Oh, I've lost you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Your
Yeah.
mic's changed. You've gone a bit quieter.
Oh, is it? Does it sound better or
Yeah,
is
there's less background noise.
okay? So
Oh,
I think.
That's not better.
All right, we're having technical issues. One sec.
Oh, well, this is going well.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
All right, is that okay if I talk like this?
Yeah, just get this. I've got this low, like, bzzz.
Oh, this is a disaster. Oh well, is yeah.
It's gone now.
Oh, is it gone now? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it just depends on the devil's in the details. It's hard without knowing the specifics. I'm sure there's lots of examples where it makes sense, but if a deal was presented to Andrew, he just came back from Hong Kong, so maybe there were conversations had there, um, and some interesting propositions were made. If the company doesn't have any debt, the MNAV is sufficiently below one. Um,
Also,
and
I don't like on similar. I don't think Andrew wants to buy a medical um, diagnostics company.
I'm thinking it would be something smaller because I don't
Yeah.
think you want to give away a big chunk of your equity either. Like you don't want to have a massive dilution event like that in one go as
Okay.
well.
Let's
So
let's let's move on from similar then. The next is also a big one, but I thought it was interesting. Empery Digital used to be Volcon Inc. Um, Now, I saw an interesting video from their CEO the other day, publicizing their less than one MNAV. Basically, it was a little bit like begging for investors. Um,
okay.
but I don't know. It's out there.
Yeah, well,
It's
you see, if that's the true figures and the MNAV fully diluted to 0.73, that to me, that's super attractive for
mm,
any Bitcoin treasury that wants to, you know, get Bitcoin at a discount. And I know that other companies are looking at M&As. I think Strive, uh, they plan to do things like this as well. So it'd be interesting if SmartWeb actually does this.
I mean, if they were the first to do it in the space, that would be pretty telling, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it would be. We just have to wait. He did say that he was looking. I don't know how long these sort of deals would take as well. It'd probably take a while.
Yeah.
Um, so
And also, Empery is a loss-making company by the looks of things. So, oh no, that's the loss on their Bitcoin
mm,
stack. Okay, let's move on from that one then. Sequence.
yeah, I think they. I think that's no. They've got plans to. They're not gonna go out like that. I don't think it has to be a company that's dead in the water and that they don't want to continue doing this or they don't see a viable way. I don't think the guys at Sequans, Corey and Ben and now are ready to throw in a towel already. So I
Sure.
don't think it's yeah.
And also, this is perhaps an example of where the data may not be right
Yeah,
because I don't believe for a moment their diluted MNAV is 0.067.
no. If you go on
So,
their website, it's completely different. So
okay, yeah, let's move on from that one. Okay, this one kind of caught my eye actually. Fold. Have you heard of Fold?
yeah, I've seen them on X. I
So
haven't
they
really. Yeah, go on.
so they've got I believe a checking account in the US, like a current account, that gives you Bitcoin back as a reward for what you spend on the debit card. Um, but they are also releasing a credit card, which I think will be popular in the States. Don't know if it makes money, but I'm kind of assuming it does. Um,
Hmm.
but the NMAB's only just sub one.
You see, the thing about this as well, I think there was a question from Dr. Bitcoin MD, the thing about these M&As is that if they have operating business, does it take too much time and effort away? So I'm assuming any deal would involve, us just getting a Bitcoin and getting rid of whatever remnants is left of the other company. So I can't imagine, if this is a actual running business that is profitable. I can't really imagine that, to be honest.
Or they've got a shed load of debt or something.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
hard.
let's crack on then, because there's still a few to get through, and we might get to the ones that are a possibility. Okay, so DDC.
No, they they want to. I think they just released their goal. They want to get to like 1% of the Bitcoin supply or something like that. From I think these companies that are active, I don't. But maybe I honestly I have no idea. I don't know, to be honest. I think we might get surprised.
Yeah, I think in my mind that they're trading at that where it starts to get interesting level of MNAV, 0.74. Um, they're American, could be useful. I don't know what uh, which stock exchange they're listed on.
New York Stock Exchange says it there.
Oh yeah, on the right. Yeah, there we go. Um, that could be a nice listing potentially, um, from a strategic point of view. But yeah, they're an active treasury. They may not be interested, as in it's not in their interest.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about
All right.
DDC. To be honest, I think it could be any any one of these companies, and these numbers I don't trust. I don't trust them. Um,
Okay, fair enough. I mean, again, these numbers might be rubbish. But this one caught my eye, not because of the ridiculously low MNAV,
because they're in
because
Hong Kong.
exactly.
Yeah,
And where's Andrew just come back from?
Hong Kong.
Could be quite tasty. Another 833 Bitcoin.
I mean, if it is that MNAV figure is correct, then that's that would be quite the accomplishment. Because in my head, I'm thinking if they're going to do these deals, and if it is international, especially, it needs to have enough juice in it for it to be worth it. So I'm thinking at least a sub zero point 0.8 mNAV. They've got to have a
Yeah.
decent amount of Bitcoin. So at least I don't know, 250 Bitcoin, for example.
Yeah, because otherwise the costs are going to be like too high for the benefit, right?
Exactly. If these numbers are correct, then why not? 833 Bitcoin.
And the other thing that struck me about if it was an Asia-based treasury or Australasia maybe, um, would be the additional ticker potential for near 24-hour trading.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting because it would make sense.
So yeah, I don't know. It just struck me as that's interesting,
Hmm.
and a way for you know uh, Asian investors to get easier access because I know it's quite difficult for them at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Contender.
Contender. Okay, Ming Xin Group.
Hmm.
They've made the contenders list. Uh, SOS Limited, China. Um, their MNAV's ridiculous. Uh,
That
so
can't be
probably
right. That can't
probably
be
not
right.
right.
Yeah.
But it is New York Stock Exchange listed.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Just seems a bit maybe needs a bit more research to find out a bit more about
Yeah.
it. Bitcoin Treasury Core.
This is the one I was talking about. Yeah.
Okay,
The
right.
Canadian one.
So you already know stuff about this. So they're
Yeah.
saying it's at a 0.646.
See, so those numbers are slightly off.
Okay.
The fully diluted is at 0.78. Basic MNAV is at 0.65. But the only thing I'll say about these guys, they are run by like actual bankers. So I don't know, because how I see it is that for a company to be acquired, that's almost a team not giving up, but they don't want to, you know, participate in this game any longer. Um, and I don't know if they're at that stage yet, but I don't know
Okay.
what they plan to do to get their MNAV back about above one. It doesn't have
So
any operating business.
it's it's a Bitcoin treasury, but they've set out that they want to do uh, Bitcoin denominated loans.
Mm.
So they want to use the Bitcoin to generate money, right?
Yeah,
So they're going to need a lot more Bitcoin than that.
I would assume so. Um,
Um, to be able
yeah.
to offer anything of size. Okay, that's definitely a contender, right?
Mm. Yeah,
For
I
sh-
can.
for sure. Where are they listed?
Canada,
Okay,
Toronto Stock Exchange, I think.
okay. That's not necessarily advantageous in that sense, but from a pure Bitcoin situation, you're not really buying much else,
Mm.
because it's a treasury that one day wants to do loans. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely interesting. Okay, CIMG. What do we think to this? I haven't heard of them. They're Hong Kong again.
I have
Point
no clue.
0.834. I'm going to leave it on the maybe list because it's Hong Kong.
Yeah, anything
Um,
in Hong Kong. Yeah, because all
yeah,
of a sudden it's just come up after Hong Kong.
for sure, for sure.
Like, we weren't talking about this before,
No.
so
Um, so could have some legs. Okay.
mm,
3U Holding AG. So this is a German company. I'm doubtful on the MNAV, just because it's down at point 0.3, but one to look into perhaps.
yeah. I for some reason I got a feeling it is going to be a company from Asia,
Okay.
just because I don't know. It just come back from Hong Kong, and I'm just thinking this just came literally after they come back from Asia. So
Yeah, my head was Asia or America or Canada, just because there had been a lot of Americans and Canadians at the conference. Um,
true.
but yeah, uh, I'm going to look into it. I'm going to look into it. I'm not saying it's a strong contender, but I'm intrigued.
Okay.
LM Funding America. Don't know anything about them. Nasdaq listed, which could be useful. Um, it's saying a zero point 0.5 MNAV, reasonably small BTC balance.
I think they're Bitcoin miners.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
probably not a business we want to get into.
definitely not.
um, it's pretty uh, capital intensive, isn't it? So, um,
Yeah, a lot of the miners, most of them trade at one mNAV or below,
what about
except for iron.
a company purchase that's done a bit more like a venture capitalist, where you just strip out the assets and shut everything else down?
I'm assuming that's exactly what Smarter Web would do if the company that they acquire has operating business. Because I don't, Smarter Web is not going to, have a subsidiary abroad and is running businesses. I just don't think that's viable at all, really.
What? What about if it's profitable?
But then why is it trading at a zero point 0.5 mNAV?
True. True.
Um, yeah, I think that the profitable operating businesses come after the monetize, 5 years down the line plus, if you've got a lot
Sure.
of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Um, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's get rid of that one then. And the final one, advanced Bitcoin technologies.
It's another
Uh,
German company.
yeah, but with
Um,
a ridiculous MNAV if it's true.
I mean, yeah, if that just doesn't look true to me at all. But if it was, of course, the thing is, the lower the MNAV you can get for these acquisitions, the better it's going to be. So who knows what opportunities has come and crossed Andrew's desk. I think a lot of people, though, they are thinking about. I think a lot of people have questions because typically M&As require a lot of work, a lot of capital, a lot of admin. So people, it has to be worth it. Otherwise, you're gonna have people complaining.
Yeah, I mean, you've got auditors, lawyers,
Hmm.
the actual person capital cost of it taking up Jesse and Andrew's time, advisors, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly, the bankers. So it has to be something that makes sense. Um, it is interesting though, the FT article, and when Andrew posted it, he did mention it, especially in his tweet. Did you see it? Let me get it up. So it does sound like something that he was, UK's biggest Bitcoin buyer eyes struggling rivals and FTSE 100 birth. Oh, that is the title of the article, to be fair.
Yeah,
Okay, never mind.
I think he's always looking for options. It doesn't mean this is necessarily even going to happen. Um, but I think it's interesting to see that as a result of this mini bear market that we've been through, there are opportunities out there now.
Yeah, I think what this just represents is the flight to quality, and that most of these companies, we're not going to have, you know, 100 companies on the top Bitcoin 100 corporate treasuries just being these sort of pure plays where they're running the sailor flywheel, because you can't do that without the trading volume. You can't do that without an ATM. You know, if you don't have a viable route, to offering preferreds or to at least tackle the local fixed income market, there's a strong ceiling as to what you can really do here. What's the point of the market giving you a premium? So a lot of the names that we heard coming up, in the last couple of months, we may never hear from them again in a serious way. Um, and all it's done is improve the relative strength of the premium Bitcoin treasuries. Especially for example, Smarter Web in the UK. Before there was all talk about number two, number three, but now if you look across the landscape, there's only really one company that's active at the moment that's buying Bitcoin every other week. That feels relevant, that has a sufficient MNAV premium. So I think there's probably going to be a lot of opportunities going forward for the acquisitions of these smaller companies.
Yeah, for sure. And if the 4 year cycle thing occurs, then even more opportunities, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there any other topics you wanted to cover, Zinks? Because that's kind of what I had on the agenda.
Um, Not really. It's been a quiet couple of weeks in terms of, well, we had the hiring of you know, the new CFO and things like that. It appears to me that we're gearing up, to list on the London Stock Exchange. I've said before the end of November that's my prediction.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it just feels like things are working behind the scenes that we're not privy to. But Andrew, Smarter Web are just lining the ducks up in order, and that we may get a spur of activity, you know, in the upcoming weeks. Um,
Yeah, for
And yeah,
sure.
I feel like something's cooking anyways. But aside from that, it's been a quiet couple of weeks, so we haven't had really much to comment on aside from the Bitcoin buys from the ATM. All I can say is that the community is as alive as ever. I do, appreciate that.
Yeah,
Still growing. It's actually, yeah, it's growing pretty fast,
doing
considering.
pretty okay.
Yeah, it's actually fantastic to see lots of new contributors. Um, I think we crossed 4,300, and yeah, I think if we can do that now, when sentiment has left the market, when things pick up again, you're going to see SWC rebounding, the strongest because it has that active community. Um,
Yeah, so on that note, if anyone watching this wants to join, it's on X. You can just search the Smarter Web Company, and it'll come up in the groups communities. There's also a Discord and Telegram channel um, that you can join if that's your vibe. Also, if you could like or subscribe to the channel, that would really help push these videos out to more people. But on that note, I think I want to thank you, Zinks, for joining, and we'll be chatting online in minutes probably anyway.
yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Sorry for the technical issues happened, but
That's okay.
yeah.
Thanks, everyone. See you all
Cheers.
next week.